This is my audience for my final speech. Cloning is becoming more practiced in the scientific community nowadays. There have been many advancements in cloning throughout the years, but the biggest jump that I've seen was the first ever cloned mammal, which was Dolly the sheep. First of all, people ask, what is cloning? Cloning describes a number of different processes that are used to produce genetically identical copies of a biological entity. And clones are not always made by fusing cells manually like scientists do. There are many clones found naturally in the earth, like plants and other single-celled organisms. They reproduce asexually, which creates clones. And there are three main ways of artificial cloning, and the first way is gene cloning, and gene cloning basically just produces copies or samples of segments of DNA. And the second way is reproductive cloning, which produces whole animals, kind of like Dolly the sheep. They took a cell from an udder gland, or an udder, and they inserted it into an unfertilized egg in a different sheep and made a fetus, and it grew into a sheep. And last but not least, there's therapeutic cloning, which produces embryonic stem cells to creating tissue such as organs and other skin. Dolly was cloned by scientists in Scotland who named the sheep after popular American singer Dolly Parton. And the Rosalind Institute stated that Dolly was cloned from 277 cell fusions, but only one of them turned into a full-term pregnancy, and that sheep was born after 148 days. To clone Dolly, scientists use an udder cell from a 6-year-old Finn Dorset white sheep, and they fuse the cell from the white sheep into unfertilized eggs of a black sheep. They had to reprogram the cell to keep it alive, but also to stop it from growing, so that once the sheep was born, it wasn't already fully grown, like with all its stuff. What they did was they had to inject the cell from the udder into the unfertilized egg, and they fused it with electrical pulses. This led to the development of the world's first ever cloned mammal. So why was this such a big advancement? Dolly, as a cloned sheep, was able to reproduce as a normal sheep would, and birth offspring without any sort of hiccups or mishaps throughout the pregnancies. This means that with the use of cloning, we can now take species that are extinct or endangered and kind of increase their population and even bring extinct species back. The problem with cloning an extinct species, such as dinosaurs, is that we would need a closely related species that is still alive today, and we'd also have to have a surrogate mother and an egg donor. That, like, it's kind of going to be hard to find a Tyrannosaurus Rex kind of creature nowadays, but scientists are trying to figure out a way that they can eliminate that process. And according to Udemy.com, cloning is mostly a good thing, or it has potential to be good, but there are also many downfalls to cloning in other ways. Some pros could be parents with no eggs or sperm can create children, and they're still genetically related to them. Parents who have lost their child, tragically, could be returned to them with a clone, or damaged organs can be replaced with cloned organ tissue. But with pros, there's always some cons, such as lack of uniqueness in cloned children. Cloning is considered unsafe for animals because of genetic defects, and it is against God's wishes and that clones would have no souls to them. Hank Greeley of Stanford University quotes, "I think no one realizes how hard cloning is in some species and how easy it is in other. Cats, easy. Dogs, hard. Mice, easy. Rat, hard. Humans and other primates are even harder to clone." There had never been a proven human clone yet, but a member of the Raelians, which is a cult that believes humans are just clones of aliens, says that they have a cloned baby from a 31-year-old American mother named Eve, but she has never been introduced to the world. Sharon Bagley from Stat News states that the cloning of Dolly can lead to many different medical advancements, such as diabetes or cancer-curing beta cells. So what effects did Dolly have on the world? Scientists recreated the process of which Dolly was cloned and used it on 2 species of endangered auks. And these auks died within a few days of being born, and the scientists are working on fixing the problems of the premature clone death. Where is Dolly now, you may ask? After getting a lung disease, she was euthanized February 14th, 2003, and she was stuffed and put on display in the Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. So what can cloning be used for? People use a form of cloning for cattle and livestock so that they can have genetically perfect livestock for show or produce. Say you have a cow that produces really high quality milk or meat. You are obviously going to expect nothing less from that cow or many other cows that you have. So you are going to want to clone that cow and keep having that genetically perfect high protein milk and meat. Other farm animals are being cloned to produce drugs or proteins that are useful in medicine. Scientists are working on fusing a cow's cell with an antibiotic in hopes of producing a cow that actually has antibiotics and disease-curing elements in its milk. And Japanese scientists have also announced efforts to clone a woolly mammoth, species that went extinct around 100,000 years ago. But for them to do that, they would need a near perfect condition piece of DNA from that woolly mammoth species, perhaps maybe a piece of bone encapsulated in an iceberg. Reproductive cloning can also be used to produce animals that are beneficial in a number of ways, one of which is to test drug responses. Cloning can also be used for making stem cells. Stem cells build, maintain, and repair the body throughout our lives. Stem cells can be manipulated to repair damaged or diseased organs and tissue, and also to cure diseases such as cancer or diabetes. If you really wanted to and had enough money, you could clone your beloved family cat. Actually, there's one biotechnology company in the United States that offers cat cloning services, and a family actually took DNA from their cat to them, and they cloned their cat and got their cat back. So in conclusion, cloning can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing and go against people's morals, such as human cloning. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve and how you look at it. Who knows where cloning will be in however many years down the road. Hopefully it is being used for good to help in the medical field and other positive purposes. And that will conclude my speech on cloning. And here's my audience one more time.